welcome in everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. We got our full panel here today. How's it going, guys?
Hey, it warmed up a little bit today.
Doing pretty good.
Negative 30.
Warmed up from negative 30. Nice.
Now it's 11. It's 11 today. It warmed up from negative 30.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take my 20, I guess.
I mean, you could be in Pensacola right now.
I got 15. I'm in between both of you.
Perfect.
Hey, you could be in Pensacola.
I got a straight
right now. They got
15.
9 inches of snow.
I mean, I wouldn't mind some snow. Like, at least then it makes the cold feel worth it. Now, granted, we don't get a ton of snow here in Seattle.
Something
typically.
like that.
It's too cold to get snow yesterday. When it gets to be like negative 30, the snow disintegrates before it even gets to the ground.
Yeah. So you got a guest today. So tell everybody about your guest.
We do have a guest today. Today we have Matt Passerelle joining us. He was formerly the manager of the Milwaukee Milkmen, who are part of the American Association of Professional Baseball, and he has now been appointed the new manager of the Chicago Dogs of the same league. So he's just taking his talents about an hour and a half south.
Perfect. All right. Well, help us welcome in Matt. How's it
Hey,
going,
how you
man?
doing, guys? How you doing?
Good, are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I'm going to make one correction.
Good to see you.
Was not manager in Milwaukee. I was just hitting coach in Milwaukee. In Milwaukee. Yep.
So
I don't want to start drama before we even get started. You know.
before we get into that, tell us a little about of your baseball background, just kind of how you came about baseball and just getting into the coaching and everything like that.
I mean, I've been playing my whole life. Obviously, played in college. When I got done playing, kicked around in the Frontier League for a couple of years, independent ball. I always loved doing it, always wanted to play. Actually, I had a coach my last year playing who said to me that I'll be a better coach than I ever am a player. You know, and at the time I was like, wow, this guy's a real D-bag. You know what I mean? I'm like, thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Want to be a good player. But he 100% was correct. I am a better coach and teacher than I ever was a player. So I got done playing, tried the whole real work thing. That was a waste of my time. Got into like training kids and stuff like that, and had a really good time doing that. And it kind of just progressed from there. The connections you make, the people you meet. Got into scouting a little bit with a friend of mine. He was with the Baltimore Orioles at the time. Kind of thought I was going to like that. It was okay. Went from the Orioles to the Royals with him when he left to go to the Royals. And then I kind of got the itch. He had asked me to coach a Royals scout team down in Florida for some tournament that they were going to. And when I did it again, I hadn't really been on the field in a while, and it kind of gave me the itch to go back to coaching. Tried to get jobs, helped out to high schools, this, that, the other thing. But then I had the opportunity to start my minor league professional coaching in Sioux City, in the American Association in Sioux City. And that was in 2015, and I've been doing it ever since.
Gotcha.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned the Frontier League too, because last week we actually had Matt Shepherdson on the show, who's the deputy commissioner of the Frontier League this year. So now that you've kind of been a part of that league, and now you're part of the American Association, they're both obviously independent leagues.
Mm-hmm.
They're both also considered those MLB partner leagues, which are you have the 4 of those.
Yep.
What is the biggest difference that you see between the Frontier League and the American Association, if there really is a big difference?
I played in the Frontier League 20 years ago, so I'm sure there's a little bit of difference. Right now it's a lot bigger. The league has expanded. I want to say majority of the teams that were in the league when I played aren't even in the league anymore. But the Frontier League has done real well expanding. And the biggest difference I would see, I just feel like it's some younger players in the Frontier League. I don't think you get as many veteran type AA, AAA, maybe a little big league time guys in the Frontier League.
Well, they did have an age cap on it.
Yeah, I think it's like 27 or 28.
I think Matt said 28 was the age cap. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine. I think it's a great league. I've seen players come out. I had a kid in Milwaukee a few years back, Aaron Hill. He played a couple years in the Frontier League. I want to say he was like player of the year one year, and then he moved on to the American Association and did well there. I think he's in the Atlantic League now. But would be my biggest thing. It's just the age, the veteran type presence. I feel like the younger group of kids, more guys that have come directly out of college and didn't get drafted, but they're good, or guys that maybe have spent a couple years in the lower levels of affiliated, rookie ball, A ball, things like that.
So what's the reach of your league? Because the Frontier League tends to be more regional. Do you have more of a nationwide footprint, or where exactly do you reach?
Well, we go from Winnipeg, Canada, down to Dallas. And then we go east, we go all the way to the Chicago area, Milwaukee, Chicago, Gary, Indiana. That's where the footprint of the teams are. As far as that, I mean, I know the league has done pretty good with getting all the games are streamed live on AATV.
Yeah.
So I would think there's a decent size, but I know in the area, I mean, most teams draw pretty good. Where we go, where we play, I feel like the following is pretty good, especially in the Chicago area. When I went out to Kane County a couple years ago, I was surprised of how well they drew, you know what I mean? Because we're so close to everything. Chicago, the Dogs now, I mean, they draw well. And I mean, we're 20 minutes from Wrigley Field? So I think they do pretty well. I think the footprint's pretty good, to be honest. It's good baseball, and I think sometimes people forget that, they think, oh, it's independent. It's semi-pro. No, it's not. I've had guys that have played in the big leagues, guys that were in the big leagues, guys that have made it to the big leagues. It's good baseball. And I think sometimes people forget that.
So do you guys have an age cap on yours, or it's open?
Yep, it's open. I want to say the minimum requirement is you got to be out of high school.
Oh, okay.
I think, I don't think you can have like a 17 or a 16-year-old kid. Don't quote me on that. I'm not positive, but no, there is no age limit. You could have anybody you want.
Nice.
I mean, you look at some of the players that the Dogs had last year. I don't know if any of them are back for you this year, but you had Jacob Teeter last year, who was just a complete monster last year. He was in the Yankees and the Astros system for several years. Narciso Crook, who obviously the Chicagoland area is familiar with him during his time with the Cubs. He came up and just started mashing. And then Kenny Serwa, who was the best pitcher that the Dogs had last year, just signed a minor league deal with the Detroit Tigers. So, I mean, the talent alone just in the Chicago Dogs system has always been great. And I know you had a lot of talent with the Milwaukee Milkmen too. I believe you even had a couple former Chicago Cubs on that roster as well.
Yeah, no, they were the talent's always there. It's right place, right time. A lot of times for these guys, like a Jacob Teeter, or maybe you come down and sometimes and you get released out of an affiliation or affiliated team, and you come to independent ball, and sometimes the pressure is a little less, and you just get to go play baseball again. When I hear all the time from these guys that come from affiliated, it's like they're always under a microscope. And I get it, they're trying to get these guys to the big leagues, but sometimes that's hard, and you get like a Crook who hit 20 something home runs last year. You get Jacob Teeter, who was the player of the year. You know what I mean? But the Brantley Bells, who was one of the top one or two, could have easily been the MVP, but Teeter was. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's good. These guys know how to play. I mean, it's not. I'm not coaching. Or I'm not managing. High school kids that are still learning the game. You know what I mean? Which is okay. I've done that too, but it's different. It's a good level.
Well, and of course that makes this work. What's the player development like?
Okay, so the player development's a little harder. We don't get quite as much time for the player development part. If I bring a guy on, he has to produce relatively quickly. I sign a guy. Trust me, the worst part of the job is releasing people and sending them home. It's nothing fun. In easier terms, I'm firing them. And it's not fun. I've never had to do it as a manager. This will be my first year doing it as a manager, but I've done it as the hitting coach for 10 years now. You know what I mean? So I get it. I know how it works. The player development part is you get a little bit of time. And if you can do it, you stay around. If you can't, I'm going to have to bring you in, and we're going to have a conversation. I would love to have time. Now, if you're winning, and you have a guy that's struggling a little bit, you can keep him around. But when you're losing, you got to produce and produce quick. Do the veteran guys have a little bit more time? Sure. They've proven themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If I got a guy that's spent 2 years in AA and he's hit 20 homers each year and he's struggling a little bit to start the season, I'm going to give him a little bit more time. But if I have a rookie who's right out of college, who did okay in college, his time isn't going to be as much,
And that's the one.
That makes sense.
And that's the one thing I do like about any independent league, for that matter, is kind of what you just said. Like when you look at the minor league and affiliate baseball, yes, obviously you want to win in affiliate baseball, but the goal in the affiliates is to basically improve you to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. Like you want to get these guys ready for the majors.
Yes.
In your mindset, yes, you want to still develop these players, but you're bringing them in with the mindset like we need to win. Like we're here to win games. We're not here to develop you the way the minor leagues does.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I enjoy working with guys. I enjoy, over the years, I've had some guys tell me, thank you, like this, that, and A, B, and C really helped me in whatever. And that's important to me. But in the same breath, I got to win, because if I don't win, I don't keep my job. It's similar to, it's a little bit more like college sports, to be honest with you. You go play baseball at, Florida State, there's 10 guys right behind you waiting to take your job. If you slip up or you don't perform to the level they want you to, you're gone. You know what I mean? Or you're going to be sitting on the bench. It's a little different, I would think, at the pro. I think at the pro level, but it's win. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I would imagine the bench is shorter, right?
Sure.
College sports, it's that it's deep.
Yeah. We're allowed a 25-man active roster.
Oh, gotcha.
So we usually try to carry 13 or 14 pitchers, and then the other ones, would be 11 or 12 position players. And one of them is your extra catcher. So really you have 2 guys on the bench.
So yeah, you said active. So do you have any fringe that are inactive?
Okay, so what's that?
That you carry as well, or how does that work?
So you have 20 when the season starts, we have to have 25 guys. I want to say for the first week and a half of the season, I got to double check the time frame, but I think it's the first 10 days actually. You get to keep 1 extra player. So you have to keep 26. But that counts against your salary cap, because we have a salary cap that we have to come into. So if you carry the extra player, that adds to your salary cap. So most likely I will probably start the season with 25 and just keep it at that. But you're allowed to have 2 guys on an inactive list, but an inactive list means you can't play for 21 days. You have to be, you can't be in a game for 21 days. So, you can have a guy on the inactive list, but he can't do you can't take him off at any time. And you're allowed to have 2 players on a disabled list.
Gotcha.
So is the inactive list similar to what like developmental list is for the minor leagues, where you get put on like that developmental list for like 14 to 20 days and they stay on that list for the full 20 days and then they can come back in?
Sure. I could consider it like that. So if I have a guy a pitcher who's throwing 100, but he just can't throw a strike, I might call him in and say, hey, we'll keep you around. You can continue to work with our guys, but you're not going to pitch for 21 days and you don't get paid. So,
okay.
So, and some guys would probably take that, some guys aren't worrying about the money either, so they're like, yeah, no problem. I can stick around, work with the pitching coach, try to figure it out. And then in 3 weeks, I can reactivate you and see where we're at, see how you're doing. Or you're free to go home. Let me know if you figure it out, and then you can come back, Yeah.
So how's that pay structure work? Is it one of those where they can do this full time, or they still have full-time jobs?
During the season, it's a full-time job. In the off season, these guys all have to work though.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to say, I know affiliated minor leagues have recently started paying a little bit more. But I want to say it's equivalent to like A ball, maybe some early AA. Now you can make some good money if you're a 6-year free agent in AA. I think it's 6 years in AA, and then AAA. You can be making, a good amount of money. But I mean, we can pay you whatever a guy wants. But at the end of the year, though, we still have to be at the salary cap. So if you pay one player too much, it could mess you all up.
Yeah, that makes it. What's the cap for your league?
Oh, I just did it yesterday. 180, right around that 180 mark, 180,000.
Okay.
And
maybe 186. I have it written down. I don't know off the top of my head.
And are there like any, like, obviously not like a luxury tax penalty or anything like that, but are you allowed to go over the cap at any time as long as you pay back the penalty later? Or is it strictly 180K cap and you can't pass it?
Oh, we'll be over. But by the last game of the year, you have to be at the cap or below.
So you can be over it the whole year as long as you get under it by that last game?
Yeah. Easiest way to explain is every day you play over, you have to play a day under.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like if it costs $100 a day and you play 5 days at 105, you got to play 5 days at 95 to balance it out.
Interesting. How do you manipulate the roster to accommodate that?
Yes. Yep. You can you throw a guy on the inactive list. His salary comes off the, so yeah, there's ways to manipulate it. Or sometimes though, you have to release a guy. You just, hey, you're doing well. You're doing nothing wrong, but I'm not going to make the number, and you're the odd man out. Those are the hard ones. You know what I mean? I had to do it last year or a couple years ago. We had to do it one time. It stinks.
Do you trade them? Is it like a trade more likely in that scenario? If somebody's playing well, you almost want to have them go to a better team or a good team.
Yep. I learned from my manager in Kane County, George Samus. I learned from him that always try to trade the guy. Always try to find him a job. And I agree with that. Sometimes it works. Sometimes guys will grab them real quick. Other times, no takers. And you know what? Sorry, man. You're done. But we can trade with any league, and we can trade within our own league. Okay. So we do have a waiver process, though. So you got to put a guy out on waivers, similar to like, I think all sports have waivers from how I understand it, but I know baseball does. You get 24 hours, and then if no one claims them, you can either release them or you can pull them back, or there's different ways, but that's usually how it works. Sorry, you did say before, is there a penalty about a luxury tax?
Or just like some sort of a penalty if you're over at the end of the year?
Yeah, you don't make the playoffs.
So even if you win your division, if you're over, wow.
Yeah, and there's a fine also. So you could be the best team in the league. You can go 90-10, and you wouldn't be able to make the playoffs. Yeah,
crazy.
I don't think that's ever happened though.
So do you guys have some sort of a combine or a draft process too? Obviously, like players that are out of the game that are trying for another opportunity to get back in, do they just kind of call the managers and be like, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity to stay in baseball and maybe get back to where I need to be? Or do you guys have like a draft or some sort of process where it goes to finding the talent that you find?
There's a lot in there. So we don't necessarily have a draft. Okay. Some leagues do. I think the Frontier League does, or maybe not a draft, but they have like a Frontier League tryout.
Yes.
I think the Pioneer League does. I'm not sure about the Atlantic League. I know some teams in the Atlantic League have their own little workouts. We can have our own Chicago Dogs workout if we wanted to. And we could say April 25th from noon to 2 o'clock, come down and you can work out. We can do that if we want to. I don't think we will, but you could. The connections that we have, just like you guys, connections in the world that everything works. College coaches, for the younger guys, guys that that are in affiliated baseball, coaches, directors of player development, whoever it may be, scouts, and then agents. That's where we get a ton of our players from. I've been officially the manager now for 1 week in Chicago. And when I tell you it's nonstop, sometimes I don't know how people got my number so fast. It's text messaging, it's emails, it's phone calls. I try to respond to everybody, even if there's no chance, but I try to respond. You always respond to the agents because a good relationship with an agent can change a lot.
Yeah.
So that's usually how we do it. There will be, I believe, if a team stops playing, like at the end of a season, if so-and-so said they're done, they're not operating anymore, I do believe those guys go into a draft.
Okay.
But not regular each year. No.
Would the same thing apply if there was like an expansion team coming in? Or would that just be pretty much just if the league added like another team or another 2 teams, how would that work to fill that roster then?
Go find your guys. Yep. So that's why, honestly, the first couple years of new teams, it's usually a little tough. First year, first 2, you know what I mean? You're trying to figure out, unless you get an established manager, they might be able to put a decent team together right away because they know the ins and outs. But yeah, that's why it's tough a little bit. Not all the time.
It's like you don't have to actively like scout then.
No. So we get lists, we get pages of guys that get released from organizations. So that's one big one. But yeah, to go out and like watch guys. I mean, I get a lot of video, and then you have, the driveline facilities and the tread athletic facilities that put stuff online. Social media is a real big thing, and now because the game has become more data driven, you can get a feel for what kind of pitcher it is or what kind of hitter it is just by some of those data points. That's not the only way you do it, but you can at least get an idea, So no real going out and scouting. No.
Yeah. So, and this is like the equivalent. I mean, it sounds fairly competitive, but but more like a double A, maybe even double A plus.
This would be my 11th year in the league. I would put it from over the 10 years I've been in the league, anywhere from really good high A to really good double A.
Okay.
Obviously, there's some years where it comes up and down a little bit. You know what I mean? But yeah, over the years, you have these guys come in and they've had some success in double A. Use that as an example. They get released, they come play. And sometimes they have this attitude like, oh, it's independent ball. I'm going to come in and just, and they get humbled. They get humbled real fast. Let me tell you, a guy gets on the mound. He thinks he throws hard. Whack, first pitch, hit 400 feet. And it's like, whoa, So, yeah, no, it's good. I mean, most of your starters are going to be, 90 to 93. You'll get some guys that throw hard. Back end bullpen, 7th, 8th inning guy, 7th, 8th, 9th inning guys. They're all in the mid to upper 90s. It's good stuff. Yeah, no, it's good. And that's you said it pretty well. I would say in general, it's like close to double A.
So you're kind of doing the Craig Counsell version of the American Association, going from Milwaukee down to the other side of the I-94 rivalry to Chicago.
I was in Kane County last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Not Milwaukee. Yeah. So okay. Kane County to Chicago. Yeah.
So what went into you going from the hitting coach to now the manager? Like, what was the process? How did you kind of come about? Like, hey, this is the job that I want. This is kind of where I'm going to go. Or was it just one of those situations where it was there, you interviewed for it, and you got it?
Yeah. So my first few years in the league, like 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, I was in Sioux City. And I'll tell you right now, I probably wasn't ready to manage those first 3 years. You think you are, but I did a good job as a hitting coach. I said that wrong. The seasons went well, I enjoyed it and I learned a lot. And we did a good job. So I was happy. When I left Sioux City to go to Milwaukee, it was just opportunity. You know what I mean? Like I new opportunity. I changed teams. I felt like I took on a little bit more of a leadership role. So I kind of, and I feel like I've always had a good grasp of the game, but I'm learning. One of my pitching coaches up there had a bunch of time in the big leagues and a relief pitcher for the Giants. And really, him and I really got along well. And, talking about how you handle yourself, some certain situations, things like that. And then when I left Milwaukee and went to Kane County and worked for George, I learned a lot of the inner workings. The player procurement, getting the players, how all that works, and just continuing to learn how to handle yourself and act correctly. So I want to say probably when I got to Kane County, I think I was ready. And then the last 3 years, I've really learned a lot. And then to answer your question, the Chicago job became open at the end of this season. My manager, George, contacted me and said, you have to go try to get that job. And at first I was like, well, man, I kind of like it here. I like working for you. And he goes, no, you need to go get it. And so I started the process, had an interview with Trish, our general manager. Had a second interview with her and our owner, Sean. And then they brought me out for a face-to-face. And like a week later, they offered me the job. But I will say when I went out there for the face-to-face is when me personally, I made the 100% decision that I wanted the job.
I mean, you're supposed to apply for stuff you're not quite ready for because you don't even know the questions you need to ask. Nope. So, I mean, a lot of it is learn on the job. So, never get into that paralysis by analysis.
Yeah. No, you're right. 100%. It was scary though. It's scary, but yeah, it's right now. It's the last week has been a whirlwind. But the last week has been great also. I'm super excited where I'm at.
And it must make you feel good too, to have like a manager that you respected so much that you wanted to stay with, basically saying you're ready to manage. Like I'm going to hate losing you, but you're ready to manage. Go take this job. That's
kind of what it was, and when he really pushed me to do it, I had a couple conversations with him and I said, these are my pros. These are some of my cons. And he goes, you don't have too many cons there. I said, no, I don't. I said, most of them are pros. And he said, he goes, no, you got to do it. He said, the market in Chicago is great. The team is good. The facilities are good. He said, he said, those jobs don't come along too often. And when they do, and if they want you, you got to really take it. So, and it did. And I'm, like I said, I got a good, Stu Clyburn's my pitching coach. He's been there for a couple years. I kept him. I'm keeping him on. Looking to hire an assistant hitting coach / third base coach, and then the staff will kind of be completed. You know what I mean? And I have Owen who's been there a couple years. He does a lot of first base work, hits ground balls, throws some BP. So it's good. Yeah. So I'm ready to go.
I got to imagine it's pretty exciting when you're in a baseball-rich market like Chicago. Mm-hmm. I mean, my initial thought is that you're part of the Chicago Dogs, and your team gets off and gets on like a run where they win like 18 of 20 games to start off, and then you have like the White Sox who stink out loud, and like it's like how many things could actually possibly change on your roster just because of that alone. It's like, hey, these guys are doing something. Maybe we have to look at them and bring them into our system because our system is so depleted right now. But then along the same lines, you've got, like I said, you've got the Cubs, you've got the White Sox, all there in Chicago, that they're looking at you as a manager saying, this guy's doing something here right now. Obviously, it's a good problem to have, but how much worry do you have on the turnover on your staff? And then possibly, I guess you got to have an aspiration to possibly go into the affiliated programs.
Sure. I mean, if I had an affiliated offer, I would definitely listen to it. That's not my number one. I really enjoy independent baseball. I really do. But yes, if the Cubs came and said, hey, we were interested in maybe hiring you as a a manager or a coach in somewhere in an organization, sure, absolutely. I'd have to entertain it and listen. And, that's that ladder that you're trying to always climb, with obviously the peak being a manager or a coach in the big leagues. As far as the players go, man, it's stressful sometimes, because you can be cruising along 18 to 20, your starter's thrown, your number one starter's thrown 3 of those games. He's given up, 4 hits in 3 outings, no runs. And then all of a sudden you get that phone call from the league. Hey, Bobby Jones just got picked up. I'm like, you're like, shit. Like, all right, now what? He's supposed to pitch tomorrow. What am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? So yes, but I will say I want all my guys out of there. I want every one of those guys to get back to affiliated or get their chance in affiliated, to go play. Does it stink when you lose them? Yes. But is that the ultimate goal? Yes. You know, you want your guys to make it to the big leagues. Over the years, I've had a couple guys make it to the big leagues that I coached, and it's cool. It's cool to see them in TV in the big leagues. Whether they stuck or it was a quick up and down, they still made it. You know, a lot more than most people can ever say. Yeah, you always kind of have that in the back of your mind. That's why I always have a notebook of players, you know, or I have a spreadsheet of players that, hey, if this guy goes, I got to replace him, you know.
Got you. Like a cup of coffee, still a cup of coffee, even though you may not get to drink all of it.
I'll take it. I would take that cup of coffee. Trust me. Yep.
And then what you were saying, Pegs, about the White Sox and everything, there were several Dogs games that I went to last year where I think they did have more fans in attendance than the White Sox did. So the fans actually do show up. The fans actually do show up to the Dogs games a lot more than a lot of independent league teams, which I've noticed, and that just goes to show just the Chicago market. Like, they love their sports, whether it's minor league, professional, or whatever. They love their sports, and they're going to show up no matter who the team is.
No, Chicago draws real well. I've been there a few times where over the years, I think they started in 2018. We've had some really nice crowds there. You know, they do the fireworks on the weekend, and you got the entertainment district right across the street where people can go. No, it's a good setup. It's a really good setup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would compare it to the Sox, though. Like that, we got more people watching the show right now than they had in the stands at those White Sox games. So I don't know if that's a great comparison.
No,
yeah, they had a couple tough ones last year, didn't they? It was like
it was brutal.
Yeah, I've been there before though, so hey, I'll keep my mouth shut on that.
All right,
I mean, I'm used to it.
So I want you to name drop now. Like, who were some of the guys who did make it into pro, and I guess I stick with the highest notable names. I know that there's a lot of probably guys that are on that list, and I don't, I figure most of them aren't watching this right now.
Guys that I've had over the years. Bryce Brents. He was a big prospect with the Red Sox. Steve Lombardozzi. His dad played a bunch of time in big leagues. A lot of first-round draft picks. Alex White, who pitched, he won the World Series, I believe, with North Carolina at the College World Series. Parker Markell, relief pitcher. Ryan Court, an infielder who made it with the Seattle Mariners. I'm trying to think of some bigger names. He was in the league. He didn't play for me, but oh gosh darn it, played for Pete Kozma, played for the Cardinals.
Yep, Pete Kozma.
Yeah, there's been a handful of guys that you come across. I had Pete a couple years ago, but that are in the league that have had substantial time in the big leagues. Our starting rotation in Milwaukee in the COVID year 2020, our starting rotation was 4 big leaguers.
Nice.
Henderson Alvarez, David Holmberg, Drew Hutchinson, who was the opening day starter for the Toronto Blue Jays like 3 years before that. I've had some guys come through. Yep.
I mean, that's probably one of the benefits to not having the top end cap is some of these guys coming back down from the bigs.
Yeah. You know what? And a lot of times what happens is these guys get injured and then they have to see if they're healthy, and a team doesn't want to take that chance. They want to see if they can pitch for, half a season. And then we hear that a lot. Like we'll have a guy that'll come in, and the first time he plays, you get 2 or 3 phone calls from an affiliate or a scout saying, hey, we're going to make sure he's healthy. And then if he's healthy, they're gone. They come take him and they buy their contract from us. So it's, it's almost like an extended rehab, and I for 10 years, I've said it though. I wish, and I think it's going in the right direction, but I wish that the affiliated and the independent would continue to work more and more. We've talked about the Cubs and the White Sox being right in Chicago, and you have the Dogs right there. If you got a guy that you're not sure if you're going to keep, hey, it's not affiliated, but we want to keep our eye on you. Go play for the Dogs, something like that. And I think that would be most of the markets have a team that could do that. Kansas City has Kansas City. There's a team in Kansas City. Lincoln in Kansas City could work with the Royals,
Maybe the Cardinals too.
In the card, yeah, you know what I mean? I think that would be a great way where it's like, hey, we are going to release you. You're not property of the St. Louis Cardinals anymore, but we want you to play here so we can kind of keep an eye on you, And if you figure it out, or if someone gets hurt, boom, we can come get you. We know you're playing, blah, blah, blah. But, I do think it's going in the right direction. I do feel it used to be more of a divide. I think they're starting to get kind of on the same page.
I actually do like that idea because you look at all these players that get designated for assignment, whether it's due to an injury, whether it's due to you have an up-and-coming prospect coming up and you know that this guy's not part of your long-term future, so you're kind of releasing him to open that spot for the prospect. Yep. Having those players that get DFA'd, and like you said, somebody from the Cubs or the White Sox gets DFA'd, just send them down to the Dogs, let them keep playing that year, and maybe getting them back into an everyday role. Another organization will be like, the guy still got something left, let's bring him in.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing too with independent. Like, you're with the White Sox or the Cubs, you're only playing for them. You have 30 teams now looking at you when you play independent ball, which it's still minor leagues. You're still doing the same thing, but it's not just one team that you work for. It's 30 teams now that you work for. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which I think it's great. But yeah, that you're 100% right what you just said. I mean, I've had guys. There's a Cardinal, John Nagowski, a few years ago. I had him, and it was the same thing. I remember when the Cardinals came and took him. He was in Sioux City with me, and they said, "Hey, it's only going to be a couple weeks. We'll give him back to you." I mean, that dude told him to take a walk. He made it to the big leagues. Like, you know what I mean? He went and played so well that they couldn't get rid of him. And that's awesome. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? Like, I prove you. Okay, I'm gonna make it to the big leagues, and I think he had a couple years now in the big leagues. So.
Nice. Yeah, but go in the opposite direction. Like somebody like that's actually one of the stories that are, like it's like Disney's story almost, where it's like, hey, yeah, you're doing, and then I'm making it so that you can't release me. Going the opposite way. How tough is it to be able to deal with the two things? I mean, first off, it sounds to me like the GM's going to deal more with the salary cap than you are. So I guess that really falls more on her than you. But like when you have salary caps and egos that come, so somebody who's just gotten out of baseball and now like, okay, they're told to come do this, as we're talking about, like, hey, the White Sox just kind of released me and now I got to go play with these guys over here. How is it that you are able to deal with the egos in that type of sense?
Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes guys get released and they're like, hey, I want to play. Some guys, well, I'm talking to my agent. I want to wait a week. And then, it's like, okay. And then you'll start talking to guys and you're like, hey, man, listen, I'm going to give you, $1,800 a month and host family, Now, I've had like big league guys where they have, or high draft picks that have money. And they were like, yeah, I don't care. I'll play for next to nothing and I'll pay for my own hotel. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. But sometimes it is tough. I've never run into it where anybody that I've been a part of on my team that has, quote unquote, big leagued you. I've never had that where they think they're better. But, sometimes negotiations are a little bit more difficult. Sure. Absolutely. And, there's guys, like I loved having Pete Cosmo a couple of years ago. This is a first round pick. I think a couple of World Series rings with the Cardinals. You know what I mean? Starting shortstop in a World Series. And this dude was great. Like, you would never know, and he was in independent ball. You know what I mean? And it's like, so a guy like that, it's great. I'm sure there's other guys that aren't that easy to. I had one guy that was a little tough to deal with. I won't use his name. But yeah, there's, it's like, okay, man, I get it. You were there, but you're not there anymore. Like, we're all in the same place right now. Stop being bitter. And then there's guys that I'll never play independent ball. Okay. Maybe it's because you're afraid to come play independent ball and get beat. I don't know, but
or like you said, get humbled.
Or get humbled. No, I've had guys get humbled real quick. But I've never had a real bad experience though on that. I haven't really had a bad experience on it. No, like, this guy's clubhouse problem or he's got to go. Nothing like that.
Are there any major league managers that you have like on speed dial to be able to kind of discuss management style and things like that that kind of help mentor you? I know that you mentioned a couple of names of managers that you kind of worked with over the years, but I just like it says when you get up into the higher ranks of like AAA and it's like I kind of follow Pete Incaviglia a little bit, who's up in independent ball up in New York area. It's like I got to imagine that there are some of these guys there that have been around and can do that. Do you utilize that at all? And is it something worthwhile, or do you kind of keep to your own?
I don't necessarily have like a big league guy. I have a couple guys that I would probably consider mentors a little bit, but not any of the big league managers. And then my coaching staff in Sioux City. Steve Montgomery, Bobby Post, they were really good. Like I said, the pitching coach I had in one of the pitching coaches I had in Milwaukee was excellent. And then George, who in Kane County, he's got some big league time, and he's been managing like 20 something years in independent ball. So him and I really got along well. So yeah, I mean, I try to absorb as much as I can. I'm a Northeast kid. I'm a talker. I never shut up. And I try to listen and absorb, you know what I mean? And how I want to handle myself, how I should react to certain situations. But no, as far as like a big league manager, not really. I got a couple guys that are coaches that I know. Guy that works with the Diamondbacks, like player development or something. I might call him every once in a while just to bounce some stuff off him. Hitting coach right now just got promoted. I think he's the assistant big league hitting coach now with the Orioles. Sherman Johnson. I've called him before to talk about stuff, but yeah, nothing really to bounce off that level. No.
So, taking a step back to something you said before, when they buy out your contract, one of your players' contracts, what's that look like?
So there's a set fee. So Major League Baseball, and then we also have Mexico, China, Taiwan, and Japan. There's like 4 or 5 leagues that we kind of work with, I guess I would say. So there's a buyout. So it doesn't matter what your contract is. There's a set fee that, like, so if the Cubs wanted to take Serwa, like you said, like the Tigers took him this year, it's different because it's the off season right now. But if it was during the season, the Cubs would have to pay a fee to the league, and then we get some of it, and the league gets some of it.
I got you.
Yes.
And it doesn't go against your cap. Like that doesn't go back towards your cap to lower that number, because once you've spent that money's already done.
Spent, yeah. There's really no way to lower it once you hit a number. I mean, we got to play under, like I said earlier. I mean, you can lower it, but every team starts the season playing over, because guys are going to get hurt, guys are going to get released, guys are going to get picked up. So, you kind of roll the dice a little bit. But at some point, though, you gotta. There's a point of no return. Like, you have to stop it at some point, or else you can't catch up.
Right. So how many players would you say rotate in and out throughout the course of a year for you? I mean, obviously you're going with 25 to start, but I mean, throughout the course, you're probably seeing about 100 players in total.
God, no, I hope not. I actually had this conversation with my general manager yesterday. I want to say Chicago made approximately 55 transactions last year.
Okay.
I would like to cut that in half, if not less. But yeah, there's teams that make a lot more, and there's teams that make a lot less. But I would love to cut that number down. That's a lot of turnover in your clubhouse, a lot of stressful releases for the manager. You know what I mean? And it's financially too, because you have to pay for the players to go home. There's it's a lot. I would like to not have that problem. I would like to put a team together to start the season where maybe you make a couple small adjustments. But who knows? But if I had to guess an average, I mean, shoot, there's teams that make transactions every day. That 50 is probably not far off from the average. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not for sure, but I would like to keep mine less. Yeah.
So do you run into situations where you had a guy that was playing well, he clears waivers, you negotiated a lower contract to bring him back in?
During the season?
Yeah, because I mean, you see that happen sometimes in football, where there's a cap hit they're trying to avoid.
Okay.
Player clears waivers, and then they end up re-signing them. Obviously, there's still whatever cap hit there is, but you get a player back at a lesser rate.
You can do that, but it's not that easy, because he has to clear waivers, and we all see the transactions every day. We know what players are making. You know what I mean? So if you're trying to do that, I might know it, and I might claim him. And if I claim him, he's mine now. You lose him. You know what I mean? Or you could pull him back, but once you pull him back, then you can't do that again. So yes, it can be done. It can be done, but it's not that easy. And then if you just straight out release a guy, you can't re-sign him for 10 days.
Oh, okay.
So I guess you could do that. But I've never heard of that happening where you do that just for the purposes of lowering his salary. But yeah, you can do it.
All right.
But I can block it. By claiming him, and then you got to pull him back, and now you can't do it again. So I won.
Yeah. No.
Or I roll the dice and you screw me, and I have to take his $4,000 contract on now. And it's my property. Now I'm really screwed because now I'm way over the cap. But yeah, no, it could be done though, like in football. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't happen that often in football either, right? Somebody usually gets claimed, or the team doesn't ultimately bring them back, but you see it occasionally, and that's why I was curious.
Yeah, it could. It can. Yes, you can do it. Yes.
I think that's all I got. Does anybody else got anything?
Yeah, I mean, you've actually been pretty thorough with with the explanations and stuff like that. When's your season start?
I try. So I will report to Chicago April 21st. I think it's the day after Thanksgiving. Camp will start the following Sunday, which I believe is April 28th. And then the season starts May 8th. Yeah. May 8th.
I think so. 7th or 8th, I believe.
Yeah. It's,
how long is your season? Like, how many games do you guys play?
100 games.
100 games? Okay.
100 games, and probably I'd say about 120 days, not even 115 days.
I believe it ends Labor Day weekend, right? Or like that Monday.
Yeah. You get about 4 days off a month. They try to set it where it's always a Monday. So you basically play Tuesday through, which is a thing affiliated now. It's like I think they only play Tuesday through Sunday. Every Monday is off. We try to do that, but sometimes it doesn't work. But I want to say the month of June, it works out that way. Where every Monday I'm off. Yeah. But some of those days are travel days, so it's not really an off day. You're on taking a bus from Chicago to Dallas is not cool, So
or Chicago to Winnipeg or whatever.
Or Chicago to Winnipeg, 15, 16 hours. Plus you got to go through the border. That's always fun. Hey guys,
I was gonna say that Winnipeg trip has got to be tough.
So. Yeah, hey guys, don't have anything on you guys. Guys, don't bring anything with you. And every time there's some idiot that has something on them.
Yeah, but I have a prescription.
Yeah, right.
Here's your prescription. You can stay on the other side of the border.
Yeah, and those dogs don't miss much. Let me tell you, those dogs don't miss much.
No, they are trained for just that stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean overall though, it's usually fine. But yeah, it can always be something.
Absolutely.
And do you have your team kind of set right now, or is it all just like you're going to get like 60, 70 guys in camp, and then you'll just whittle down to that?
Okay, so we're allowed 33 in camp. But camp's only 12 days. So it's not, I wish it was longer. This is actually 4 days longer this year. I think it was 8 days last year. But I won't bring in 33 guys. It's not enough time to make judgment on a player in, 7 days, or 8 days. We'll play probably between 6 or 7 exhibition games, and then the rest will be workouts. I would probably, my goal, 25 opening day. My goal would probably be to bring in 28 at the most. And most of them would be pitchers. Offensively, I'd probably, maybe bring the one extra catcher into camp just so the catchers don't get the snot beaten out of them every day. But besides that, no. But my list of names is 60 or 70 names. Yeah, but my goal would be to probably bring in 28.
And how long are the player contracts?
1 year.
1 year. Okay.
1 year. 1 year contracts, and we get to protect guys. You get to protect a certain amount of guys at the end of every season.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I learned though over the years, if a guy doesn't want to be there, just let him go.
That makes sense.
Like sometimes guys hold on to guys, and I'm like, guys, they're going to destroy your clubhouse, first of all, and I've had good teams with bad clubhouses and the teams don't succeed. I've had average teams with great clubhouses and the teams overachieve. Guys want to play together. So that's a real thing. So if a guy doesn't want to be there, I don't really care how good you are. We can move on, good luck and see you around.
Yeah. I'd rather have a team than a couple of stars.
Exactly.
A team that drinks together wins together. That's right. A full-fledged, real deal thing. So I'm a firm believer of that.
You're definitely from Philly, man.
That's exactly correct. Hey, listen, it's like, because when you don't have that, like, I mean, I play slow pitch softball, so which is a big difference than what we're talking about here. But ultimately, those teams, like teams that go back to the bar and hang out with each other and do things together afterwards, tend to do better out on the field. And I got to imagine that translates everywhere. I feel like the Phillies,
100%. A clubhouse cancer will destroy the team. Yep. And I mean, every sport, hockey, baseball, football, basketball, you know what I mean? One guy can destroy a team. Yep.
Yes. But there's a lot of nonsense in the comments that I've been ignoring.
Oh yeah, they're talking about the Eagles game, and there's been a fight in the comments.
Oh yeah, good times. Good times. Well, awesome, man. I do really appreciate you coming on.
No, absolutely. I had a great time, man. When I got contacted, Dustin, when he contacted me, I'm like, yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in. I could talk, like I said, I could talk forever. So.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Well, and if you're going to be starting right around April 28th, I mean, I'm going to be driving back home right around that time. Who knows? I might stop by the camp and see and just take some pictures or whatever.
We can go have a beer, man.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm game for that.
Hey, if you go there, Pigs, you have one rule that you got to remember: no ketchup on the hot dogs.
No ketchup on the hot dogs. Yeah, that's their big thing there. No ketchup. But there's a good Italian place right next to the stadium we'll go to.
I mean, that's perfect. Why no ketchup on the hot dogs?
Because
I don't know. It's a Chicago thing. I'm not sure about it, man, but it's a big deal out there. I better get used to it.
Chicago-style hot dogs are mustard, relish, peppers, and a bunch of other stuff. There's no ketchup on a Chicago-style hot dog.
Chili? You got to throw some chili on there?
I mean, you can get chili dogs, yeah, but there is like a specific hot dog called a Chicago-style hot dog that's like a loaded hot dog. It just does not have ketchup on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it. I can do with or without ketchup. I don't care, but.
Yeah, no, it's a great hot dog.
It is.
I think it's in my contract. I got to make sure I don't have ketchup on my hot dog.
You got to make sure it's not in the clubhouse either.
Yeah, exactly, right?
See, now it'd be funny if it was in the logo, though. Like,
well, the logo is a hot dog.
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's a hot dog with mustard on it.
It'd be hilarious.
Yes, Joe, he absolutely is. He's a paisan. But
that is
well, listen,
great.
Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. And let's see if we could circle back if there's some time during the season that you're like got a homestand and you have off on like a Monday or whatever. Let's try to maybe reconnect somewhere in the middle of the season, see how you're doing.
You guys are always welcome, man. Anytime if you're in Chicago, contact, get some tickets to the game. And, like I said, we'll have some drinks and food.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. So, but guys, really do appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. You guys have a good day.
You too.
You too.
All right, bye.
Thanks, Matt. Right. Have a good one.
And that does bring us to the top of the hour. So if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. You're watching on Roku TV. Stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here. Great guest, guys.
Yeah, you know what? It's good to talk some baseball before everything gets kind of started. We know that obviously football is here, and we're it's most of the time. But there are other sports out there that we need to talk about a little bit.
And spring training starts in like 18, 19 days. So, I mean, it's
well, that's the thing. We're only a couple weeks away from having to talk about other sports.
Right. Exactly.
So,
but
awesome.
Everybody have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow.
Take it easy, guys.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and